of the smartest men in the history of science looked at the same animal, the same ridiculous 2-meter neck, and both of them got the explanation wrong. Today, on Guess What I Found Out, we're heading back 10 million years to meet the giraffe's moose-sized ancestor, and stick around, because by the end of this one you're going to understand why paleontologists now think giraffes evolved their signature feature to win fights, not to reach lunch. Humans have been obsessed with giraffes for a very long time. They show up in rock art thousands of years old, and they're still the animal every kid sprints toward at the zoo. We just cannot get over those proportions, which is exactly why, for over 2 centuries, thinkers kept returning to one specific animal to test their biggest ideas about how life on Earth actually works. Meet Samotherium, a moose-sized herbivore that wandered the grasslands of Eurasia and Africa around 10 million years ago. It had 2 bony knobs on its head called ossicones, the same headgear modern giraffes and okapis still wear, and a neck stretching about 1 meter long. That's not short, but it's nowhere close to the over 2-meter necks giraffes carry today, and it's noticeably longer than the stubby neck of its closest living relative, the okapi. Samotherium sits right in the evolutionary middle, a snapshot of the giraffe family halfway through growing into its most famous feature, before later giraffids push things even further into the ridiculous. We're going to call this whole saga the sex neck, because, as you're about to find out, that's a more accurate name than anybody wanted it to be for the first 200 years scientists argued about it. In the early 19th century, French naturalist Jean-Baptiste Lamarck looked at the giraffe and thought he'd cracked evolution completely. His theory was that ancestral giraffes stretched their necks their whole lives, reaching for higher leaves, and that stretched, worked-out neck got passed straight down to their kids. Lifetime gym gains inherited directly, no waiting around for generations of natural variation. It's a fun idea. It is also completely wrong, because stretching your neck at the salad bar does not edit your DNA, no matter how badly you want it to. Charles Darwin came along and fixed the mechanism. Forget stretching, he said. Some giraffes were just naturally born with longer necks than others, and the long-necked ones outcompeted everybody else for food, survived better, and passed the trait on. That's natural selection, and it's a real and powerful force. Darwin nailed how giraffe necks could evolve. What he never fully nailed down was why this particular family, out of every browsing mammal on the savannah, ended up with the most absurdly disproportionate neck since the sauropods. If you're the kind of person who enjoys watching 2 centuries of very smart people be confidently wrong, go ahead and subscribe now, because it gets better. Here's where it gets genuinely weird, and this is the part that had scientists rewriting the giraffe's whole origin story. In 1996, 2 researchers proposed that everybody had been thinking about this backwards. It wasn't food competition driving the sex neck at all, they argued. It was sex, literally. Their paper's hypothesis is nicknamed necks for sex. And yes, that is the real scientific term. I did not make that up. It leans on the same principle Darwin himself later described for things like a peacock's tail. Traits that don't necessarily help you survive, might even slow you down or make you an easier target, but absolutely help you get a date, and evolution is famously willing to trade a little safety for a lot of reproductive success. Their evidence was surprisingly solid. Giraffes were regularly observed browsing low shrubs even during dry seasons when food competition should be brutal, feeding faster with their necks bent than fully stretched, which makes 0 sense if the neck exists purely to reach the treetops. And most tellingly, male giraffes use that long neck for one very specific, very dramatic move that has nothing to do with eating: swinging their heads like sledgehammers into rival males to win access to mates. If a longer, heavier neck wins more fights, it also wins more offspring, and evolution does not care why a trait spreads, only that it does. The very same year that paper came out, paleontologists digging in China's Gobi Desert pulled a strange fossilized skull out of the ground and had absolutely no idea what to make of it. They nicknamed it Strange Beast in Mandarin and moved on for decades. It took until 2022 for scientists to properly describe it, and when they did, they named it Discokeryx and confirmed it was an early giraffoid relative from around 17 million years ago. Let's give this one its own nickname too, the bowler hat brawler, because it had a thick disc of bone on its skull, capped in keratin and neck and skull joints, more reinforced than any mammal ever documented. Researchers concluded it may have had the single most optimized headbutting design in vertebrate history. Tougher than modern muskox, tougher than rams, and, well, arguably tougher than some headbutting dinosaurs. This wasn't an animal built to reach leaves. It was built to absorb skull-rattling hits from a rival, brace itself, and hit back even harder, over and over again, without rattling its own brain loose in the process. And, as it turns out, it wasn't alone. Across something like 20 million years of giraffoid history, other branches of the family evolved their own bizarre headgear as well. Elaborate horns and thickened skulls on extinct relatives like Brahmatherium and Civatherium, all seemingly built for the exact same reason: winning fights nobody was actually forced to have. So, which side do you think actually explains the sex neck, competition for food, or competition for mates? Drop your vote in the comments and tell me why, because, well, paleontologists genuinely still argue about this one. Now, before you assume the mystery is fully solved, here's the honest twist. It isn't. Later, studies measuring male and female giraffes found no meaningful difference in neck length relative to body size between the sexes, which is exactly what you would not expect if brutal male-on-male combat alone were the force behind the trait, since only males actually do the neck swinging. Some researchers push back hard on the necks for sex idea, arguing the feeding advantage was real after all, and had simply been measured wrong the first time around. And the debate over the modern giraffe's own neck is still genuinely unresolved between two rival camps of very stubborn, very credentialed scientists who show no sign of backing down any time soon. What Discokeryx does prove beyond doubt is that somewhere across the giraffoid family's long history, sexual selection built some of the strangest headgear evolution has ever produced. That's honestly the more interesting takeaway. Evolution didn't settle on one clean answer for this family. It kept experimenting, producing wildly different weapons and proportions in different branches depending on local conditions, competitors and mating systems, and we're still sorting out which pressure won in which lineage and when, hundreds of years after Lamarck and Darwin both thought they'd already closed the book on it. Turns out the book was never closed. It just kept growing new chapters every time somebody dug up another weird skull. A couple videos back, we dug into why evolution never managed to delete same-sex attraction from the human species either, no matter how many generations you'd expect it to quietly disappear. And that's honestly the thread running through both of these stories. Nature rarely hands us the tidy, single-cause explanation we go looking for. It hands us competing pressures, unfinished arguments, and weird fossils that force smart people to admit they were wrong. Every time we go digging, that turns out to be exactly why it's worth digging in the first place. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you next time we find another trait evolution apparently built with more than one reason in mind. See you there, Curious George.